The Bucks Mill Dam project itself will remove one of the last barriers on the Pelican River. There have been other projects completed locally, and the Bucks Mill project remains one of the only impediments in the Detroit Lakes area for fish passage on the Pelican River lake chain.
The Bucks Mill Dam was originally built in 1871 to support the logging industry, and it was built by the brothers William and Simon Buck. And in addition to the dam, a mill was built along with a granary and a general store. And this area in the community became known as Bucks Mill. So by the early 1900s, there was a transition from the mills to the tourism industry. So in our area, we have the Pelican River, which has a chain of lakes connecting Detroit, Sally, Melissa, and Pelican Lakes. And John West started the Pelican Valley Navigation Company in 1888 and started running a steamboat operation to bring tourists into the area to the various resorts along this lake system. But in order to get the tourists down to Pelican Lake, he needed to reconstruct the dam. So in 1908, he constructed a new concrete dam and lock system to extend the steamboat route down to Pelican Lake. And many of the tourists were from the Fargo-Moorhead area, so they come in from the valley and come here to recreate where the more of the cool summer, where the lakes and the rivers, so they can recreate and fish. So the steamboat travel started to steadily decline as the automobiles became more popular. And by 1918, the transport system with the steamboats had ended. And at that time, the concrete dam and lock system was removed. And as time passed, the Sally Melissa Lake Association worked with the federal government starting in the mid-1930s, and by 1936 they had secured funding, and the dam as we know it as built today was constructed in 1936 by the Works Progress Administration. So the current dam is almost 90 years old, and especially the lock that's located there. Some of the concrete sidewalls are failing, they're tipped, they're potential safety hazards, and so we want to remove that safety hazard. And now with our modification, we know that the dams are causing ecological issues with fish passage. So one of the primary benefits to this project now will be to extend the lake sturgeon passage up and down the Red River Valley. And this is one of the last major obstacles for that fish passage to occur.
So right now, if you're a fish in the Pelican River and you're trying to move upstream and you run into Bucks Mill, you literally run into a wall. It's quite easy to see how this fragments the riverscape from a fish movement perspective. The Bucks Mill Dam modification is part of DNR Fisheries' overall Reconnect the Red River fish passage initiative. This has been ongoing since the 1990s with the goal of restoring native fish and sport fish populations to the full extent of their range around the Red River Basin, while also providing other ecological functions for things like our native mussels and then overall connectivity of lake and river systems.
In support of the DNR's initiative to reconnect the Red, the Bucks Mill Dam has been identified as an obstruction to fish passage in the region. To fix that, we're going to modify the dam that's in place, and that does not mean removal. That means we will change the landscape around the dam. What that will include is installing a more natural appearing spillway. So downstream of the dam having some rock riffle structures or like an arch rapids type appearance, and that'll allow for lower velocity so that the fish can pass easily up and downstream. Instead of having that dam in the way, now they have a very long, gradual ramp, if you will, to make their way upstream over those little rock riffle structures where there's nice low velocities and good habitat for them. But as part of that, the township road is also immediately downstream. And in order to maintain that crossing, we're going to have to modify it, likely including a road raise. And that's both to enable fish passage through the crossing, which of course is critical to the goals of the project, and enable a sustainable, safe, long-term crossing there for the township road and potential enhancements in the area.
As part of our fish passage projects around the basin, what we're trying to do is increase the ecological connectivity of the system. Now this benefits our fish populations, it benefits our native mussel populations, it benefits even aquatic insects. It also benefits how sediment moves through the system. So really, with one activity, we can deliver quite a few long-term benefits to the local community. Now, this project is also part of our ongoing lake sturgeon restoration program throughout the Red River Basin. Lake sturgeon were present here for literally hundreds of millions of years, about 150 million years. Now, within about 40 years, starting in 1880 to about 1920, 1930, we drove those to a local extinction because we fragmented the habitat. Dams were necessary for settlement of this part of the world, but as those functions are no longer essential to our community, we can address one of the problems that it created. When we fragmented the habitat, lake sturgeon and other fish, like our walleye, our native suckers, were no longer able to get to their historic spawning grounds. This will restore some of that habitat, as well as deliver that connectivity benefit not only for our local community, but for the Pelican River Basin as a whole. One other benefit that these structures create when we build them is their excellent spawning habitat for a lot of our migratory fishes. As the water goes through the rapids, it naturally keeps the rock clean of silt and sediment. It tumbles and oxygenates, so you have a lot of clean substrate with well-oxygenated, clean water flowing over it. And that's an ideal incubator for a lot of these fish and their eggs. So not only are we creating excellent spawning habitat, we're creating excellent egg survival habitat, while also remedying a stream habitat problem in terms of the degraded habitat downstream.
So we're currently in the early stages of the project, with construction anticipated to be beginning in the fall of 2025 and extend on into 2026. And we are bound by our permitting to make sure that water surface elevations in the region are the same after the project as they are during, to reflect what it is today in the existing condition. And during construction itself, we'll do everything we can to enable access as much as possible through there, ensuring the public safety is at the utmost. The long-term benefits of this project are, of course, fish passage being the primary goal and the critical role that that type of passage plays in our ecology for our water resources. It'll have safe public access to fishing in the area. In addition, this will provide a sustainable, low-maintenance outlet to the mill pond, erasing any concerns about dam failure and/or any kind of stop log management or things like that. Give a nice, sustainable outlet.
The county has acquired some land here that we're hoping to put in a public park area, and we can have it so that people can get back to the fishing of the area, because it's fabulous fish habitat, and also it's very scenic in this area, so it will be a destination. I think there's also plans to hopefully maybe build a bike trail down to this area. So it's a beautiful recreation area, and we're hoping that with the project that we have in place, we'll make it even more beautiful than it currently is.